Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of At 7 with Rich, every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Available on Facebook and also on YouTube. Thank you for those who tuned in last week, and more importantly, those who hit the subscribe button. And if you haven't done so, do so right away. As in my introduction last week, these are going to be mostly motivational talks which are based around scripture or biblical principles, but some, like today's talk, might not have any at all. And I really hope that this will help us not only during the lockdown, but also beyond the lockdown and what lies ahead for us. Today we're going to be looking at a topic called time to get uncomfortable. It's time to get uncomfortable. There's a word my dad used to love using when I was a youngster, and that was the word procrastination. He said that I got procrastination down to an absolute fine art as a younger individual. If you look at the definition of procrastination in the dictionary, it says the action of delaying or postponing something. The action of delaying or postponing something. And I think for most of us, like my dad described me, it's not so much an action. We've actually got it down to an art form of to procrastinate. If you take, for example, just to give you an example of something, if you sit down and have a plate of food, okay, my favorite plate of food is normally on a Sunday, where there's roast chicken, there's roast potatoes, there's salad, and there's a bit of veggies. Now, I don't know about you, and I don't know what your favorite plate of food is, but when I look at that, the first thing I want to jump into is either the roast chicken or the roast potatoes, my absolute favorite. If you're a student, I did a bit of part-time studying over the last couple of years, whether you're full-time or part-time. You've come home from work and you got a project that's due in 3 months' time, and you get home and you've basically got two choices. You could either watch the latest series, or you could sit down and work on your project due for 3 months. And can tell you, most of us, and the majority of us, will rather sit down, because there's a lot more relaxing to sit down and actually watch the latest series, isn't it? And then 2 weeks to go before the project is due, then we get into this panic state and we rush to get the project finished. So what is a few reasons for the reasons that we procrastinate? A few could be because of fear, could be because of failure, it could be because I can't do it, and that's actually next week's talk. We're going to be looking at the life of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is called by God, and we're going to look at his life story and just how we use those words in our daily lives, and I can't do it. So look out for that over the next few weeks. I'll also be sharing a bit of my own testimony around Jeremiah's story. Maybe we procrastinate because whatever it is, we think it's too difficult, or simply it's because we don't want to do it, or just simply because we don't want to do it. So let's look at this procrastination in the work and the school environment to start off with. I work for a ship chandling company a couple of years back. And I remember, if I think back about that job, what I used to love doing is I used to always love coming in. You come in and the first thing I would do is make a cup of coffee, and then I sit down and I check my emails. What I loved doing as a buyer, I was a buyer back then, is phoning up the customers or phoning up the suppliers, following up on orders. I was always excited about those kind of things. I was excited about 10 o'clock and tea with my old buddy and colleague Brian. He used to always bring me this rusk, and I really enjoyed that. What I didn't enjoy doing as part of my job was coding invoices. So basically, with the pastel program that we used, you have to code every single item and then capture the invoice. That was part of my job, and I disliked that the most. So what I used to do was leave that till last, and by leaving that till last, it would extend my day. Leaving that till last, it would actually, I would work unnecessary overtime because I just delayed doing that. When I figured out that as soon as I received the invoice, if I actually coded it, invoiced it, and captured it immediately, I had a lot more time on my hands to do the things I enjoyed doing. For a lot of us, we've been homeschooling our children during this lockdown, and that's also been quite challenging and fun at the same time. I realized very quickly when it came to my daughter Kayla's schoolwork, it was that she enjoyed certain subjects and she didn't enjoy some others. And it was very clear early on that mathematics, believe it or not, numbers, she loves numbers. She gets excited to do maths. But as soon as we started to take on the Afrikaans, her whole body language changed, and she would put her head on her arm, and you could just see because she struggled with Afrikaans. But we need to apply ourselves. I think that if we apply ourselves and we get uncomfortable with the things that we don't enjoy doing, and we actually do that first part of our day, make it the first part of our day, we'll enjoy the rest of our day. If we do what we dislike or we hate first, the rest of our day will become more productive. We'll be a lot happier. We'll meet more deadlines, and we'll minimize our procrastination. I saw very quickly in Kayla's whole morale with regards to her schoolwork. Once we put Afrikaans to the first subject of the day, it was the first subject she took on while she was still energized and she was still fresh. Just last week there was a few words she just couldn't understand. We spent an extra half an hour on that subject, and it was really difficult for her, and it was difficult for me because I had to be patient with her. This week Afrikaans was not only a breeze, but the rest of the work. She gets to do maths and English and all the other subjects she enjoys because she tackled the difficult part first. And I believe that if we apply ourselves, and if we go into that uncomfortable before we take on the comfortable, it'll make our lives a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. Dr. Scott Peck, author and psychiatrist, he describes this as delaying gratification. Delaying gratification. This is what he writes in his book, The Road Less Traveled. He explains, delaying gratification is a process of scheduling the pain and pleasure of life in such a way as to enhance the pleasure by meeting and experiencing the pain first and getting it over with. It's the only decent way to live. Let me read that again for you. Delaying gratification is a process of scheduling the pain and pleasure of life in such a way to enhance the pleasure by meeting and experiencing the pain first and getting over it. It's the only way to live. So if you've got siblings like me, and I've got a younger brother, his name's Terence, and when we were younger we used to play a lot of backyard cricket. Now I was a pretty good cricketer. I'd say I was a very good all-rounder. I could bat, I could bowl. Okay, I lie, I was a terrible fielder, but I suppose I can pass because I was really good. Opened the batting, opened the bowling. So when we played backyard cricket, I really didn't mind. I'd bat, I'd bowl first. For me, I enjoyed both. It wasn't a problem. For Terence, he couldn't really bowl, but he wasn't too bad with the bat. So Terence would always bat first. So he'd go in and he'd bat first, and I'd bowl and probably get him out a few times. But I'd give him a few chances, and eventually it would be his turn to bowl, and he'd literally just bowl 2 balls and say, okay, he's had enough, and go inside, which led to a lot of attention at times and just getting very agitated with him because he had his turn to bat. But you see, from a young age, we already develop these kind of habits that we do what we enjoy first, and we don't really want to take on, the difficult parts. So we really don't want to have to face that. But the good news is that it's never too late. The good news that it's never too late. Just like playing a musical instrument, it's never too late in life to change. It's never too late in life to learn. For example, when I started to learn to play guitar, let's take guitar for example. Learning to play guitar takes a lot of patience. There's a lot of frustration in when you first learn to play the chords. You've got to get your fingers in the right place. Not only do you have to get your fingers into the right place, but your fingers start to burn. When I learned to play guitar, my fingers actually bled until eventually they formed calluses, and once they form calluses, then you can play okay. When I learned to play bar chords, I remember my wrist and my fingers actually cramping up while trying to learn to play bar chords. But I did it, and when you do that, when you put in that time, and you go through that pain and that difficulty, you eventually get to a time where now I don't have to, even when I'm playing, I can play most songs. I don't have to look at the chord formations. I can just play the song. I know the rhythms and the beats and all of that. But that didn't come naturally. You had to put in that hard work to be able to actually enjoy the instrument. And that's the same with this principle we're trying to apply in life and with the way we procrastinate. You see, if we don't do this, we're going to get knocked out. We're going to get knocked out, and we're going to not know why we've been knocked out. I recently watched, and you can search it on YouTube. I'm not going to name and shame anybody here, but there's a YouTube clip of the worst boxers ever. I've got into watching mixed martial arts. I did a bit of taekwondo back in the day, so I'm quite interested in mixed martial arts and UFC and all of that. And I came across this boxing video. It said worst boxers ever, and they were showing these 5 worst boxers who never trained like a normal boxer trained. What they actually did is they said they studied the videos, and they studied video clips, and they were watching their favorite boxers. So these guys got into the boxing ring and said they didn't need to train in the way normal boxers trained, because they knew these styles and they thoroughly studied these styles. Needless to say, it didn't last very long, and they were knocked out, and they wondered why. So it's not a bad thing. For many of us, yes, we can watch the videos. I've watched Eric Clapton Unplugged many times. I've watched it over and over and over, and yes, they inspire you. Inspire you to be creative, inspire you to be a better guitarist. If you're a football fan, I'm sure if you're a Ronaldo fan, you've watched Ronaldo clips over and over. It's great to watch him. It's great to be inspired by him. If you're into numbers and you've watched maybe bookkeeping or accounting videos, if that's what you're into, and you've watched it, and you watched it even gaming videos, it's good to do it. But that's not going to help you give the knockout punch, is it? That's not going to help you. Yes, it's going to help you, inspire you and all of that, but you're not going to be able to play the guitar by watching a video. You're not going to be able to have similar skills to Ronaldo if you don't go out there and you practice the skills. And the same with accounting. Unless you go and actually run the numbers and do the numbers and get your head around the numbers, you're not going to be able to do it. You see, your fingers need to bleed. Your muscles need to cramp. Your mind needs to be trained. Sometimes your heart needs to be trained. Maybe getting uncomfortable means you've got to have difficult conversations. Maybe, getting uncomfortable means that you got to change habits, which is difficult. Actions. Maybe it even requires tears. If we look back into the Bible, and most of you will know the story about David and Goliath. And David's quite famous for that particular story, whether you're Christian or not. And little shepherd boy David, we know the story. He comes and he takes on this big soldier in Goliath, and he defeats him with the help of God and the faith of God and a sling and a stone. But what a lot of people miss about that story is that if you go back in David's life, David was a great poet. He wrote most of the Psalms written by David. He also played the harp. And when he was a shepherd boy, I can tell you, as a shepherd boy, he would have much rather been sitting there chilling with his sheep, playing the harp, writing his poems. That's what he would be doing. But in that job, it required him to protect the sheep. And in protecting sheep, if a lion and a bear came along, and it says in the Bible that he took on lions and bears to protect the sheep, okay? A lot of people read over this. Now, I can tell you, I don't know if you've seen a real lion or a bear, but it's pretty terrifying. So the fact that he'd actually taken on lions and bears, he'd entered into that uncomfortable, he had entered into that difficult, he'd actually conquered it with the help of God. I can tell you, by the time he took on Goliath, you probably thought this is an easy task, because he already got into the uncomfortable and into the difficult and into the necessary. So it's time to stop procrastinating. Maybe it's time for you to get uncomfortable. Maybe it's time to get up and do that very thing you've been putting off. So thanks for tuning in again. It's absolutely great to have just been able to be given this opportunity. Big shout out again to Sean Peters Media and for the use of his equipment. Please check out his channel and his page if you're into mountain biking, all those kinds of things. There's plenty information there. Thanks for joining me. As I said, from next week we're going to be looking at I can't do it. Those words, I can't do it. The life of Jeremiah, his experience. Just going to be hearing a bit about my own personal life. But it's absolutely great to see you all again. And yes, please like, share, and don't forget on YouTube to hit that subscribe button. Thank you. Good night all. Bless.